I welcome you to the Semaj MindSpa Radio, where mind, spirit, and science meet. We do so on Fit FM 96.7 on the FM dial and at fitfmja.com. That's where we go global. Thanks to our founding sponsor, the Semaj MindSpa Network, JN, the Jamaica National Group, www.jngroup.com. I love their tagline. We'll help you find a way. And also Above or Beyond Consultant, Above or Beyond Inc., taking you above where you presently are or beyond your wildest imagination. We greet our immediate family in the Trelawney area, and then we move along the North Coast, all the way around to Western Jamaica. There's some fires that are burning in the St. Elizabeth area. I hope they're out now. Had some rain. On Fit FM 96.7 FM, we greet the world in www.fitfmja.com. We hail up the Wayne Hall Network out of Atlanta and the Caribbean Vibes Radio Network out of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So we're there, we're local, we're regional, we're global. The great thing I like to remind people of now, once you're on the internet, once you're on social media, there's the possibility for any and everyone to link you. All right. So be aware of that, what you're saying and what you're doing. Now, I want to put this in context in terms of where we're going with this program. Somewhere in Jamaica last Friday night, could have been in your parish, could have been in your street, could have been in your community, in your house, something happened. The lights went out. Not for 5 minutes, not for an hour. The lights went out around 7 in the evening. In some areas, they came back closer to midnight, and within an hour went again, and not back until the next morning, about 6. Huh? That's a long spell. Long spell. And in that darkness, in communities all across Jamaica, men and women over 60 sat alone in their homes. I focus on this group for a very special reason, and it will unfold as we go into the program. Some had candles, some did not. Some had fully charged phones. Some had phones with just 5%. Some had neighbors who knocked to see how they were doing. Many did not. And in that stretch of darkness and heat and silence, something was revealed. Not just about JPS, not just about our infrastructure. Something was revealed about how prepared or unprepared we are to live alone in the season of our lives. Even just to live in Jamaica, but especially in the season of our lives. Now, that is what we're going to talk about today. Yeah? So we give thanks. This is the Semaj MindSpa, where mind, spirit, and science meet. That's the ultimate combination, mind, spirit, and science. No mumbo jumbo here. Huh? So, welcome. I'm Dr. Leahcim Semaj, psychologist, social philosopher, griot, among other things, and your companion on this journey through the most important chapter of your life. I want to just hail up all the mind travelers. That's what I'm calling the persons who, this week we went over 800,000 visitors. Over 800,000 persons logged in to in a 28-day period to the Semaj MindSpa on Facebook, and our numbers on TikTok just as impressive. So we're getting the word out. And the wonderful thing I like to keep reminding folks, people used to say that people just have short attention span. All people want is just nonsense. Yes, a lot of people are in that category, but I offer no dancing cats. I offer no clickbait, and the numbers keep climbing because obviously people want what we're delivering. So thank you very much for being part of that. So today's program is called Living Alone Over 60 in Jamaica. What the power outage taught us. What are the lessons? Often in life, sometimes you win the prize, but other times you get the lesson. And oftentimes the lesson is more important than the prize. Now, I want to be clear from the beginning. This is not a program about blaming or bashing JPS. There are other contexts for that. We're not into that. We have other more important things to do. This is not a program about the politics and the rate increase on the grid, etc., etc. There are other people who that's their specialty. This program is about you. That's where I come in, huh? You. That's what I care about. This program is about what happens psychologically, physically, practically, when the systems we take for granted suddenly disappear. And we're left alone in the dark, literally and figuratively. Left to manage in the dark. Because here's the truth. A power outage is one of the most effective diagnostic tools we have. Think about that. It strips away convenience. It removes the things we lean on without knowing we're leaning on them. It shows us quickly and clearly where we are genuinely prepared and where we have been operating on borrowed safety. If you're living alone and you're over 60, this program is for you. If you have parents, an aunt, uncle, an older neighbor living alone, stay with us. You can help them. And guess what? If you're lucky enough, you're going to go older. So guess what? This will help you prepare. What you hear today may matter before the next outage come. And it will come. We don't know when, we don't know how, but we know it will come. So let's begin. Huh? So let's call this first segment the outage as diagnostic. The outage as diagnostic. Now, I've been thinking about this for some time, long before this most recent outage. And the question I keep returning to is this. What does an emergency reveal about the life we have built? Because an emergency doesn't create problems. Can I repeat that? An emergency does not create problems. What an emergency does, it exposes problems that already were there. It exposes. The roof that had a small leak, you were managing just fine. The hurricane does not create that leak. What the hurricane did was show you where the leak was all along. And the same thing, a power outage works the same way. Think about what a prolonged outage takes away from you in one stroke. Your refrigerator, gone. Everything you stored, every medication that requires cooling, every meal you prepared in advance, gone or at risk. Your lights, gone. If you need to move through your home at night to the bathroom, to the kitchen, to the door, you are now navigating in the darkness. Your fan, gone. Now, in Jamaica, especially for persons over 60, whose thermal regulation is already less efficient than it was when they're in their 40s, this is not a minor inconvenience. This is a health condition waiting to happen. Your phone charger, gone. Many people, it's when they are about to go to bed, they put their phones to charge. And oftentimes they run it down throughout the course of the day. Meaning the charge you have is all you have left. And if your phone is your primary link to family, to emergency service, to the outside world, then every percentage point you use becomes a calculation. Your security system, if you have one, in some cases, gone, because it depends on power. Your television, your radio, your sense of what is happening around you, gone. And your sense of control, that too is gone. Now, I want you to notice something. I listed 7 things just now. Not one of them was exotic. Not one of them was unusual. Every single one is part of the ordinary infrastructure of daily life. Things we use without thinking, things we depend on without registering that we depend on them. And that's precisely the problem. When we live alone, we often do not notice the invisible scaffolding that holds our day together until it collapses. Somebody shared a story with me, from Miss Enid in Kingston 8. She's 69. And this is her story. When the light went out, I realized I never did have not even one candle in the house. One candle. Is my neighbor Miss Chin slide one under the door for me. But I wasn't going to call her because it's late and I don't want to be a burden. So I just sit down in the dark and I just start think, what if something happened to me right now? Who would even know? Miss Enid? That's real. Who would even know? Now, Miss Enid's question is not a dramatic question. It's a practical one. And for thousands of Jamaicans living alone, it's one of the most important questions they'll ever sit with. The outage forced her to ask it. She had not asked it before. This is what I mean when I say the power outage is a diagnostic. It prompts questions that comfort has been allowing us to defer. And I want to submit to you that deferring is dangerous. Not dramatic, not catastrophic, just quietly, steadily dangerous. Like high blood pressure that you have not checked, huh? Dangerous. Let me give you some context from our Jamaican reality. According to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, the 2022 Population and Housing Census found that approximately 22% of households in Jamaica are single-person households. You and God live. And the proportion of those single-person households headed by someone 60 and over has been steadily growing. So we're not talking about a small population. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who wake up every morning in a house that they're the only person there. I should add, they go to bed at night, they're the only person there. Now, the question is not whether this is a good or a bad choice. For many of us, living alone is the right choice. A choice that reflects independence, self-determination, and the hard-won ability to manage your own affairs. The question is whether we're living alone wisely. That's the question. There's a difference between alone and being unprepared. There's a difference between solitude and isolation. The power outage, if you're willing to learn from it, teaches us exactly where we fall on those spectrums. What I want to do now is take you through the 7 vulnerabilities revealed in the diagnostic test called the power outage. I want to walk with you through what I'm calling the 7 vulnerabilities revealed by a power outage. 7 areas of risk that a sustained outage brings to the surface for people living alone over 60. Now, if you are there, we're talking to you directly. If you have parents, relatives who are there, we're talking to them through you. I call them vulnerabilities, not weaknesses. A vulnerability is not a character flaw. It is simply an area where your system, your personal living system, has a gap. And gaps can be closed. And that's the good news. Gaps can be closed. So let's look at vulnerability number 1. Physical safety in the dark. You see the things we take for granted once there's light, huh? Falls are among the leading cause of serious injury and death among people over 60. I say this ad nauseum. And they're dramatically more likely to happen in the dark. I know of some stories. If your lights are out and you need to navigate to the bathroom at 2 a.m., which, if you're over 60, it is not an unlikely scenario, and you do not have a torch within arm's reach of your bed, you are at elevated risk. Eventually, that night, what did the outage reveal? Whether you have a torch charged and accessible, whether your pathway clear enough to navigate without light, whether your bathroom has any emergency lighting. That's real. Vulnerability number 2, that's medication management. Some medications must be refrigerated. Insulin, certain eye drops, some cardiac medication. A prolonged outage, anything over 4 to 6 hours, can compromise your efficacy. But beyond refrigeration, consider this. Do you take your medications on a schedule? Is that schedule managed by a phone alarm that you have set? If your phone dies, do you have a backup system? A written schedule? A clock? The outage revealed whether your medication management is device dependent or truly internalized. 2 down. Vulnerability number 3, heat and hydration. Now, I mentioned the concept of thermoregulation before, but let's spell it out a little bit more now. As we age, our bodies become less efficient at regulating temperature. We sweat less effectively. We feel thirst less accurately, which means we can be dehydrated well before we recognize that we're thirsty. In Jamaican heat, without a fan, without air conditioning, a prolonged outage can create genuine heat stress in older adults within hours. What did the outage reveal? Whether you have a plan for heat or not, whether you have stored water, whether you know your own warning signs of heat exhaustion, dizziness, confusion, rapid heartbeat. Vulnerability number 4, communication. Your phone is your lifeline, but it is only a lifeline if it is charged. And if your only way to charge it requires electricity, then when the lights go, your lifeline is on countdown. The outage reveals some strange things. Do you have a portable battery bank? Fully charged, accessible? Did you? Do the people who care about you have a protocol, a check-in system that activates when the outage is prolonged? Or is the expectation that you will reach out to them when in fact you may be the one who needs to be reached? Another story that I was shared with me about Mr. Clifton, who is 74 from Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth. And he indicated that his daughter usually called him every Saturday. But the outage was on Friday night. So by Saturday morning, my phone dead. She didn't even know yet. I had to walk out to the road and ask a young man to charge the phone in his car. I was embarrassed. I'm a man who take care of myself for 20 years. But that Saturday morning, I realized I didn't have no plan B. And that's the first time in a long time I feel what I can only call frightened. My phone dead. And expecting to get a call from my daughter. The one call I expect every week from my one daughter. Mr. Clifton used a word that I want it to sit with us. Frightened. Not panicked, not helpless, but frightened. And he named it honestly. When big man tell us I'm frightened, that honesty is a form of strength. And I want us to hold this story as we continue. Vulnerability number 5, that's food security. An outage of 8 hours or more begins to compromise refrigerated food. If you live alone, you may have planned the meals carefully. You are one person. You buy what you need. You manage your diet with intention. A prolonged outage can eliminate that planning in one stroke. What did the outage reveal? Whether you have non-perishable staples accessible, yeah. Whether you have the ability to prepare a meal without electricity, you have a gas stove, a coal stove, a kerosene burner, whether you have enough drinking water stored to see you through a day. Vulnerability number 6, psychological resilience. Now, this one does not appear on the practical checklist, but it's as real as any of the others. Being alone in an extended outage, especially at night, especially in heat, especially when you can't reach the people you love, it creates psychological pressure. You know, I got a call from a brethren on WhatsApp, and I said, boy, Doc, I wonder if it's a coup this. Here's a big fire there, JDF, and then all island. So one day for wake a morning here, say, the government been taken over. And then I said, no, Jamaicans are not known to be that adventurous, But that's the kind of thought. I'm sure there are many people thinking those thoughts. What is happening? Rumination. A sense of vulnerability can activate old fears, old losses, old questions about one's own capacity. What did the outage reveal? Whether you have the inner resources, the practices, the anchors, the framework to manage that pressure without descending into panic or despair. I will say more about this in section 4 because it is close to the center of what this program is about. But now let's look at vulnerability number 7, social connectivity, the human network. What is that? The final vulnerability revealed by the outage is arguably the most important one. Did anyone check on you? Hmm? I got a WhatsApp from a cousin in the United States that she heard something online and she just checked and said, how do you do? I got a WhatsApp from my daughter who's still also here in Jamaica but in a different area. Dad, you okay? I verified her situation. I got a check-in from my son who was in Outage. Said, Dad, you okay? You good? Said, boy, you know, so dad a soldier, you know. So dad good. Did anyone check on you? Not your family. I mean, immediate community, your neighbor, the person 2 houses away, the deacon from your church, the shopkeeper on the corner. Did anyone knock on your door? If the answer is no, if you sat through the entire outage without a single person making a check on you to confirm that you were safe, then the outage reveals something that no torch, no portable battery, no gas stove can fix. It revealed that your human safety network needs attention. Now, do you realize now, just reflect on all of what I've just went through. Do you realize now how few people are having this type of conversation? The kind of almost careless conversation that people are having regarding the outage and the blame and the meaning and who's caused it and so on. We're dealing with the real thing, folks. It's about you. So 7 vulnerabilities. Write them down if you can. 1, physical safety in the dark. 2, medication management. 3, heat and hydration. 4, communication. 5, food security. 6, psychological resilience. And 7, social connectivity. These are not the problems the outage created. These are the problems the outage showed us that exist. And knowing them is the first step towards closing them. So let's move into segment 4 now. Ankle leg preparedness. What do I mean by that? I want to talk to you about this concept I've developed for years now. One that I believe is central to how we should understand this second season of life. I call it the ankle leg. In a relay race, the ankle leg is for the final runner. This is the person the team saves for the best, last. The ankle leg runner does not run fast, they run last. And they run the most important stretch, the stretch where the race is either won or lost. In my work, I use the ankle leg as a framework for understanding life after 60. You're not in the winding down phase. You're not in the maintenance phase. You're in the ankle leg. You carry the full weight of everything that came before. The experience, the wisdom, the scars, the accomplishments. And if you have been handed the baton precisely because you are the one trusted to finish, yeah, that's where you are. But here's the thing about the ankle leg runner. They prepare. They do not just show up on race day without having thought through the course. They do not assume that because they have run many races before, this one requires no specific preparation. They study the track. They know where the curves are. They know what conditions they will find. And the power outage, as uncomfortable as it is just one of the conditions on the ankle leg course. Let me give what I'm calling the ankle leg outage readiness framework. 7 responses to the 7 vulnerabilities we just named. Now, response 1, light access. Every bedroom in which a solo senior sleeps should have a torch, preferably a rechargeable LED torch, within arm's reach of the bed. Non-negotiable. Not in the kitchen, not in the garage, within arm's reach of the bed. You can just reach over and touch it. Non-negotiable. It would be good to add a glow-in-the-dark tape to the path from your bed to your bathroom. Cost? Under $2,000 JA. Priority? Immediate. Next light, if you don't have these two things, you get them next light. If you have to call a relative, a son, a daughter, so this is important for next light. Response to medication protocol. Write your medication schedule on paper. Keep it in your wallet. Keep it beside your bed. Know which of your medications are temperature sensitive and find out from your pharmacist the specific time window before they are compromised. If you are on insulin or other refrigerated medication, speak to your doctor about what to do in an extended outage. There is a protocol, but you need to know it before the outage, not during and definitely not after. Response 3, heat management. Store drinking water. The standard recommendation is 1 liter of water per person per day minimum. For people over 60 in a Jamaican heat event, I recommend 2 liters as your floor. Keep a hand fan. Know that if you begin to feel confused, unusually tired, or stop sweating in extreme heat, these are warning signs of heat stress and requires immediate action. Response 4, the communication protocol. Invest in a portable battery bank. They are available at many hardware stores and electronic shops island-wide for well under $3,000. Now, it's a life we're talking about, people. Keep it charged. Establish what I call a dark protocol with at least one family member or trusted person. If there is a prolonged outage, you will send that check-in message within the first hour. If they do not receive it, they should call you. If they cannot reach you, they should send someone. The protocol must be explicit. You know, I'll call if something is wrong is not a protocol. A protocol is a named, agreed, and specific set of steps. Response 5, I call this the pantry principle. Keep what I call a 48-hour pantry. Some non-perishable items that you eat. Sardine, corned beef or bully beef, tuna, crackers, oats, powdered milk. Even that in a can ackee, some can callaloo, enough for 2 days of basic nutrition. These things don't require any preparation, any refrigeration. You're good. Store the water separately. Keep a manual can opener, by the way, because enough of you have no electric and fancy can opener. You have a manual can opener. If you have a gas stove or a kerosene stove, ensure that you always have fuel. This is not survivalism, folks. This is anchor leg preparation. Another story to share with you here about Dawn from Montego Bay, 52. She has an adult daughter. And her story was that after the outage, I realized that what I had been telling myself was, Mama is fine. She's independent. She's strong. And all of that is true. But strong and prepared are not the same thing. So we sat down together after and we made an actual list. She didn't resist it. She said, I didn't want to worry you. And I said, Mama, letting me help you prepare is not worry. It's respecting me. That changed something between us. Letting me help you prepare is not worrying me. It is respecting me. I want adult children who are listening to hold that. I want seniors who are listening to receive that. Letting me help you prepare is not worrying me. It is respecting me. There's a version of independence that becomes isolation disguised as dignity. It says, I do not want to be a burden. I will manage. Do not fuss over me. And I understand that impulse completely. I live it myself. But true independence is not the refusal to take support. True independence is the management of support. Knowing when you need it, asking for it on your own terms, integrating it without surrendering your agency. This is what the anchor leg runner does. Response number 6, the psychological anchor. I'll address the inner dimension in segment 4. But I will say this now, your psychological readiness for a difficult night is not separate from your physical preparation. The two are connected. A person who has closed the practical vulnerabilities we listed will experience the outage with a fundamentally different quality of mind than a person who sits in the dark wondering what will go wrong next. Preparation is itself a psychological act. It's an act of self-respect. It's a declaration that your life is in this season is worth protecting. Response 7, the human network audit. I want you to do something after this program. I want you to take a piece of paper and write down the name of 3 people who could physically reach you within 30 minutes if needed. People who will live near you, not family members abroad. 3 names. If you cannot write 3 names, this is not a judgment. This is serious information. It tells you where your next investments need to go. Not in equipment, not in provision, but in relationships. Because at the end of the night, when the outage is at its darkest and longest point, what sustained us is not the torch in our hand. It's knowing that someone knows we're there. You write those 3 names down. Who are those people? If you can't identify 3 people, you have work to do. Now, segment 4, the inner outage, mind under pressure. Before we're talking about the external outage, no, we're going inside now. I'm a psychologist. I want to go somewhere now that most people do not go in practical conversation about senior living. I want to go inside. Because everything we have discussed so far, the torch, the water, the phone, the charger, the protocol, all of that addresses the outer outage, the darkness outside. But there's another outage, the one that happens inside. When you are alone and the lights go out and the heat comes in and the silence gets heavy, something happens in the mind. Something that is not about logistics. It's about meaning. There are questions that come in the dark that do not come in daylight. Not because they are new questions, but because the noise of everyday life the television, the radio, the routine, the busyness. These noises keep them at bay. But in the darkness, they arrive and they sound like this in your mind. Am I all right? Do people know I'm here? What would happen if something happened to me tonight? Is this what the rest of my life looks like? These are not irrational questions. These are signs of weakness or instability. They are the questions of consciousness. Reflective human beings do this, sitting alone in the dark, confronting the real conditions of their life. And the ankle leg runner does not run from these questions. The ankle leg runner has a relationship with them. In my work as a psychologist, I have sat with many people over 60 who live alone. And the pattern I see most consistently is this. The ones who struggle most are not the ones who face the most difficult circumstance. They're the ones who have not developed what I call an inner practice. An inner practice is a set of mental and spiritual habits that provide stability when external conditions are unstable. It could be a prayer. Many of us were raised in that tradition, and it is a powerful one. The act of speaking into something larger than yourself, of placing your situation in a context wider than the current crisis. It could be breath work, breathing, the deliberate use of breath to regulate your nervous system. When we are safe. This is not a metaphor. This is physiology. It could be journaling, the act of writing down what you're feeling, which externalizes it, gives it form, and reduces the power over you. It could be an affirmation, not the shallow kind that everything is wonderful kind, but the grounded kind that says, I have been through hard nights before. I am still here. I know how to get through this. Not to romanticize, but to remind your nervous system that it has a reserve you may have forgotten. The point is this: you need something for the inner outage. You need a practice that does not require electricity, that does not require another person to activate. You need a process that lives inside you and ready. I will share you something personal in line with this. I am 74 years old. I have been living with intention and with study for most of those years. And I can tell you that the moments in my life when I was most tested, not by professional challenge, not by public difficulty, but by the quiet, private pressures of my own circumstances, those moments were met by what I had built inside for many years. Not what I had accumulated outside, not the degrees on the wall, not the books on the shelf, but what I had built inside of me. And I say this not to be abstract, not to be philosophical for its own sake, but because I believe with everything in me, the preparation that matters most for the ankle leg is your inner preparation. The torch is important, the water is important, the protocol is important, but none of it holds if there's no inner anchor. One more thing before we close this practice. If the darkness brought anxiety, that did not pass through the outage. If you found yourself after the lights came back still carrying a weight, still sitting with fear that the situation had stirred, I want you to name that. What's it you're feeling? Not to dramatize it, not to catastrophize it. Name it. Name it to a trusted person, to a counselor, to a pastor, to your spiritual leader, to someone who is in the MindSpa community. Name it, share it. Because unexamined fear does not dissolve on its own. It calcified. It narrows the world. It whispered that staying home, staying small, staying away is a safe choice. And in the ankle leg run, the safe choice and the right choice are not always the same. Now, I want to share you an ankle leg closing practice so we can wrap this. We're coming to the end of our time together today. And I want to offer something to take. You can take with. Not a list, not a task, but a practice. I call this the ankle leg grounding practice. You can do this right now wherever you are. You can do it tonight before you sleep. You can do it in the next power outage in the dark. You can do it without any equipment at all. All required is you. Find a comfortable position. Now, if you're driving, don't close your eyes, but you can still follow your breath. Okay, here's how we do it. Take a slow breath in through the nostrils and count to 4 as you breathe in. Hold gentle, just for 2 counts. Then breathe out slowly through your mouth. Let it be longer than the breath in. Count 6 as you let it go. Again, in through your nostrils, count 4. Hold for 2. Out through the mouth, count 6. Slow, deliberate, complete. Now, as you settle in this breath, I'd want you to bring to mind one thing that you are grateful for today. We're not talking about something large, nothing grand, something small and real. The smell of the morning. Every morning, the first thing I do, I head out into my backyard and literally just wait for that space between night and day. It's beautiful when you live in the hills and the mountain ridge, and there's a river beneath, so that there's mist coming up from the river, and there's the clouds coming over the mountain, and the lights coming over. For me, that's the most incredible sign that you're good. So whatever it works for you, the smell of the morning. A cup of tea that was hot when you wanted it, how's that? Well, I'm a coffee person. The first thing I do in the morning is I brew a pot of Blue Mountain coffee. Yeah, let's just call it what it is, because life is too short to not drink good coffee. Something of gratitude, the fact that you woke up. Pause. Hold that small, real thing in your awareness. Now, I want you to say silently or aloud, whichever feels right for you, I have everything I need to begin. I am not at the end of something. I am in the anchor leg. And I run this stretch with everything I have built. That's it. Now, those words, folks, those words. Breath is something we take for granted. Do you realize that breath is what is with you for your life? Life begins with that first breath. As you exit the womb and you take your first breath. Huh? Or a cough, a breath. And at the other end, when you breathe out for the last time and nothing comes back in, once you're breathing, and we use breath work as one of the most powerful things. It stabilizes the nervous system. It calms you. So that we're talking about the inner work, what needs to be done. So wherever you are, Kingston, Cascade, Anata Bay, Black River, a hilltop in Portland or a yard in Spanish Town, you are not alone in this practice. Once you can center yourself and breathe, thousands of people are in this anchor leg with you. And we run together, each in our own lane at our own pace, but we're doing it together. So that the inner work, the inner space, that's where it is really must be there. Because if you don't do that, there's nothing. You have to find a way to let that stay with you. All the vulnerabilities that we have identified, they're important. And it would have been in vain. It would have been in vain that we had gone through all of this darkness and not take away the lessons. So, before I let you go in a few minutes, first, if you would like a written version of the Anchor Leg Outage Readiness Framework, the 7 responses we walk through, visit the Semaj MindSpa.com. It will be there for you, free of charge. I want to make sure it's there. Second, my book, The Best Is Yet to Come, a psychologist's guide for thriving in retirement, is available through the MindSpa platform, and also it's available on Amazon. If the anchor leg concept speaks to you and you want to go deeper, that's where we go deeper. Third, if you're a senior living alone and you'd like to connect with community support, well, there's the National Council for Senior Citizens. That's a resource. Call your local service office for the contact details in your parish. And fourth, if something we discussed today brought up some feelings you have been carrying, anxiety, loneliness, uncertainty about the future, I want you to reach out. Not to suppress it, not to try to manage it alone. Reach out to a trusted person. Reach out to a counselor. Reach out to the MindSpa. You know that whenever you have a heavy load and you reach out with someone, the act of reaching out lightens it. Where mind, spirit, and science meet. Where you do not have to pretend that everything is fine when it's not. And where you discover reliability consistently, that you are more capable than the darkness made you feel. In future MindSpa radio show, we will continue this series. We keep coming back to this in different ways, you know? And we want to come back to a version now, living alone over 60. And we'll look at the question, when is it time to consider another arrangement other than one you're presently in? Not as a defeat, as a decision made with wisdom, with self-knowledge on your own terms. So let me just briefly summarize some of the things we talked about. We looked at the vulnerabilities, the physical safety in the dark, and that the need to rechargeable torch within arm's reach of your bed and glow tape on the pathway immediately. Your medication management, written medication schedule, temperature sensitive protocol, get that done this week. Heat and hydration. Have 2 liters of stored water minimum, a hand fan. Know what heat stress warning signs are this week. Communication. A portable battery bank. Establish an explicit dark protocol with your family contact immediately. Food security. A 48-hour non-perishable pantry. Gas or kerosene backup for cooking, a manual can opener this month. Psychological resilience, develop your inner practice, whether it is prayer, breath work, journaling, affirmation, memory, and you do this every day. Social connectivity, remember, name 3 people within 30 minutes of you. Establish a neighborhood mutual awareness this month. Got that? I'm Dr. Leahcim Semaj of the Semaj MindSpa, where mind, spirit, and science meet. That's where I am. This is what I do. And thank you for being a part of this process. You and the other 850,000, we are scheduled to go over the 1 million mark before the end of this month. Thank you for being part of this process. And till we meet again, walk good. Walk good.